At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked number one in innovation for 10 consecutive years and number two among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
If you love entertainment, current events, and Hollywood, don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today, we have a special guest.
Malik,
Welcome.
what is up, yo?
Oh man, I listened to the song and I instantly just was like, oh, this is gonna be really fun to just and I went and it just made me want to go back and look at your other stuff and I did. So I did a little snooping around, watched some of your videos and your content is awesome. Tell me a little bit about the beginning though. Young Malik, like growing up, what was that like? And have you always been into music? And when did that start, that love for music start for you?
When I was young, it was more so like, I was more of a basketball guy, and
Hmm.
so growing up, I grew up in like a musical family for sure, but I was more of a basketball kid, and so being surrounded by music, it was easy to I loved the like music, but I felt like at the end of the day, I was like, I'm gonna make it to the NBA. Um, that was kind of my goal. And I don't think I got into music until I was probably like a freshman in high school is when I started
Okay,
to kind of pick up the pen. And I was like, it's because of my uncle though, because he was like an engineer. And so I was always around him. He was like my brother.
nice.
And so he had like his own home-based studio. And so I'd be sneaking in there. I'm like, what are you working on today?
I
And then
love that.
yeah, so that's kind of where it all started as ninth grade. And ever since then, it started getting serious more so, I'd
Hmm.
say probably in college, you know, locking
Nice.
myself in the closet and just going to work on Logic Pro.
Logic. Good old
Yeah,
logic. Good old logic. I was doing I remember what gosh, years ago. Is it fruity? Is it called Fruity Loops? Is that what a
Fruity
beat
Loops.
thing is?
Yep. Yep. That's like the OG. It's the OG producer.
Yeah,
Duh.
I just told my age. So you took it more seriously after in college. Now, did you
Yep.
know exactly like, because it's when you decide to do something as a career and really go full fledged in it, it's like, how, I'm looking at your resume now. It's like, oh my gosh, you've done so many amazing songs and visuals and put them out. You're about your work. How did you like start? Like, what did you reach out to someone? Did you just start going into a studio? Like, how does one just know off the bat like what to do?
I guess like I was in college and I learned again like a little bit of engineering in high school, but
Okay,
in college, like I had like broken my ankle, like I had gotten an injury, and then it it gave me time to be able to just kind of kick back and sit back and relax. And
yeah,
so I remember there was this time where I was, working on a song and I had a buddy that was kind of a producer slash engineer. And I'm like, hey man, I'm working on the song and I was wondering if you could engineer it for me. He's like,
nice.
yeah, I got you. So then he engineered it and then he sent me back the final mix and I was like, yo, this is not it. I was like, this is not it. So from that point on, I was like, it was I pretty much locked myself in the closet for like days at a time and just learned. And I was looking up YouTube university, tutorial videos of how to like engineer and stuff. So That's how I knew I just locked in. That's when I was like I really more so self-taught with everything,
Oh,
producing,
I love that.
engineering, and all that.
I find that self-taught, is probably the best kind of teacher because it's just like hands-on
Right,
versus
right.
like reading a textbook or getting it from someone else's mouth, but like really just getting into the trenches and failing a few times. And I feel like that's like the best way. Um,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah. Let's talk about your music, Toast to That.
Yeah.
It's a blend of hip hop, pop and country swing. What inspired you to merge such like distinct genres onto this track?
I mean, those are like my favorite genres to listen to. And I would say it's like it's not too much hip hop, but it is more so country swing and pop and a
Yeah.
little like indie, but yeah, I mean I've been working on kind of more that pop and country sound for probably like a few years now. I
Okay.
want to say like 3 or 4 years, but I feel like I've kind of mastered it over the last like year-ish, like years, 2 years.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean that's kind of as far as like what inspired me for Toast to That. It's just the genre. Like I love to mingle those genres together, even hip hop too. Like and like on other tracks, I just kind of love to. I've always been a guy that just is versatile in the sense of just like mixing around with different
Sounds and
sounds and yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Like you don't want to be put in like a box. You want to be able
Yeah,
to, just do whatever you want creatively, which is freedom.
exactly. Exactly.
I love that. You've described Toast to That as a nod to unexpected connections like serendipity, which is I would love that, which there's a real life is there like a real life moment or person that sparked this song for you? You don't have to say any names, but
Yeah, is there a real life moment? Yeah, a person for sure. I was in I was actually visiting my buddy in Denver and yeah, we the funny part about it is he was wanting me to come to Denver to like help him record. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, okay. And while I was in Denver, like we went out and had some fun and stuff, but I know I'm in his house and I'm writing this song for him, essentially based off of like a situation that happened to him. And and then yeah, and then I show him the song. I'm like, yo, man, I wrote this song for you. And I gave him the demo version of like my lyrics and like what it sounded like. And then he's like, yeah, honestly, bro, like I think you killed that. So I'm like, you think so? And so I listened back to it, and then I was like, I think this is the one. I think this is one of them ones. And
Love that.
and yeah, that's kind of like how it all unfolded. But it's funny. It wasn't originally wrote for me, and then
Oh,
I ended
okay.
up taking it. I wrote it for someone else, and
I
then
love that though.
and then
I mean,
he's
it
like, I just
sounds
don't think
like
I can.
you.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is. And then I was able to curate that story like in the album, right? It
Nice.
fits like a part of a storyline in the album, so it all makes sense why I kept it.
I love that. I love that. Um, how do you mix like for me, I love hearing like I think our backgrounds tell a lot about like our roots, like where we come from. We can always incorporate that into, our creatively. I'm Afro-Cuban, so I have Cuban roots, a lot of
Right,
family in Cuba, and I want to do a documentary there one day. That's on my list.
right.
But with you, how do you incorporate, your roots to like how it shows up in your music, create your and your creative identity?
Yeah, I mean, culturally, I think like I'm more so Irish, and then I'm half black, right?
Mhm.
Um, Growing up in my Irish side of the family, they were like the musicians.
Yeah,
Right, my grandpa was like a part of the Letterman, and they introduced me to like a variety amount of different music from Michael Jackson to Frank Sinatra.
love that.
Um, but it wasn't the thing was is like I think that as a young kid, like I was moving a lot because my mom worked for the airlines, so I was
Mm,
moving a lot from like LA to Houston to Utah, to even like months at a time in Hawaii, like a little bit. And I think that being in different cultures, like in those type of environments, there's different cultures in those type of environments. So
Hmm.
I think that's kind of what truly inspired like a little of the country from Texas and,
Yeah.
a little of the hip hop from LA and, a little of the R&B from LA and then a little, and then just more so experiences out of Utah,
Nice.
like some of the
Hmm.
experiences out of Utah. So that's yeah, I'd say that's a little bit of like cultural wise, like where I kind of found a little bit of that music.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So I love asking this question to every guest on the show, and there is no wrong answer. Uh, but the three levels of influence: money,
Yeah.
power, and respect. And if you could choose only one of those things, which one would you choose and why?
Respect probably. I'd probably choose respect. I think because, you know, I mean, respect like everything else comes, like money and power kind of comes with respect in a way, because I feel like I would love to be a respected artist because that just shows me like I really did put a lot of work in, right? And it's like it's tough not to it would be tough not to respect someone that has like a crazy work ethic, And so
Absolutely.
you always it's almost like you want to be have notoriety for like your work ethic and
Hmm.
um and that's just like kind of falls into the level of respect and I think like respect's a huge thing and that's also um I think a cultural trait from being in the South in Texas a lot. So
Yes,
yeah, I would
yes.
say that's a big thing for me for sure is respect
I
at
love
all
that.
levels and that goes with like all levels of different things, right? So
Yeah, yeah. No, great answer. Great answer. Um, I love that. I do love that. Do you think and I'm curious, as I'm I've been in the film industry for many years, and um it's slowly getting better from my point of view, because I went to cinema for school for cinematography, so I shoot for a
yeah,
living. And I started out doing a lot of music videos and then transitioned to making movies and then doing my own thing, but I still have it's a fight, just to
right.
get the like the recognition, the
Exactly.
okey doke, the yo, you're good, but it's better than it used to be when I first started. But what I'm curious about in as an artist, and it I'm very curious, is the same, is it are you fighting for that space to be okay, this I'm here, this is me, like being recognized as okay, this is what I do. So like basically that respect, do you feel like it is changing the music industry as a whole? The big conglomerates that we work for, are
Right.
they respecting artists? Are they giving artists chances, more chances?
I would say so, yeah. I think like resourcefully, like, through like social media,
Hmm.
you have more outlets and tools and resources as an artist to, you know, kind of make it independently.
Yeah.
And not only just make it independently, but you to also be noticed by labels and executives. But I would say the tough part about it is I think that it is like music and maybe even, alongside with you, like the entertainment industry, film industry, like sometimes it can be oversaturated, right? Because
Yeah.
music is just so accessible now, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone can make it in their mom's basement right now if they wanted to. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the toughest part is because it's so resourceful and there's so many resources you can do through the internet and TikTok and Instagram and promoting all your stuff. I
Hmm.
think the toughest part is being able to uh it's being able to try to stand out of the 30 to 40, 50 million songs that are released today. It's like how can you stand out the most and
Stand out. Yeah.
how well can you utilize those resources?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, it's you're right with I really like AI, the fact that AI is here, but there's also
Right.
the, there's pros and cons to everything. And then I think the cons are, like you said, it's figuring out how to, because it's so saturated. Absolutely. It's like, how do
Right.
you stand out when there's so many similar sounds, so many similar people, or in the same genre as you? How do you separate yourself? So, um, yeah, I do you think, and I mean, with, even big artists who've been around for many years,
Right.
they're having a tough time as well. I mean, people aren't really. I think back in the day, music back in the day was complete. How we consume music back then to how we
Yeah.
consume music now is completely like. I think that has a lot to do with it, because
Oh, for
everything is
sure.
so accessible versus like
Hmm.
having like records or those kind of things.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%. It's like back in the day, you were you were back in the day you were on LimeWire, you know?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
even before LimeWire, back in the day, you're like buying CDs. And
yeah.
then prior to buying CDs, you were buying vinyls,
Mm,
you know? And
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
it's just like music was, I mean, you had more of like you had more of it was definitely more artist driven too. Like you were more like, which I think is cool now that like you can stream any artist and handpick any artist and handpick your like playlists and
That's
your
true.
workout playlist, and that's really cool. That's the cool thing nowadays. But back then I think it was more artist driven. Like you're like, man, I have these top five artists and I play, or you'd put the CD. You I mean, if you went to LimeWire, you'd pirate the shit out of those songs, put them in your
Yeah,
put them in your playlist, and then you'd burn a CD with that
yeah,
playlist.
yeah,
Or if you didn't do that, then it was just like you bought five different individual CDs for like Nelly and Michael Jackson and whatever, and then you'd
yeah.
be switching out those six disc CD changers or whatever they were, and figuring
Yeah,
that out. So it's different, but it's good and it's bad, right? Like it's like
yeah,
artists were
right.
making some good money back then too, because they're selling out CDs, and it was like he sold 50,000 units. Now it's
Yeah,
50,000 CDs. Well, nowadays
yeah,
people are like he sold 50,000 units, and you're like, okay, what is units like streams like and how do you kind of
yeah. And I'm
dial that
curious about that. Yeah, the
down?
streams. What is that? I mean, could you elaborate a little bit on that? Like, what is the difference? Like, I don't really know anything in the music world of how much you make, especially independently. Being fully self-sufficient, artist, and what. I mean, obviously, it also gives you freedom, but also there's the
Yeah,
pros and cons as well.
right. It's like now, I mean, as far as like when people are like, oh, he sold like an artist will be like, I sold like 250,000 units for
Hmm.
when he dropped his album or whatever. I honestly don't know the answer to that because I don't know how they like calculate like I'm like, are you calculating the streams on like and then
Yeah,
what streams are you calculating from like what platform?
right.
But as an independent artist, I mean, nowadays, yeah, I mean, it's you can make money, right? But it's really just building your brand and once you build your brand, I mean, I think a lot of independent artists will make their money from streams, and I think like out of a pie chart, that's maybe like 25% of them their money income is from streams, but then, it's
Mm.
merch, it's touring, it's sponsorships, it's endorsements from, different companies and it's also people like, hey man, we'll pay you an X amount of money for a private show.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so
Okay.
it's like kind of like those. So but at the end of the day, like is at the beginning, it's like as an independent artist, it's like, and that's where it's different between the labels. Like an independent artist, you're having to fund yourself, right? Where a
Yeah.
label's gonna do the funding for you, but then there's a return, and that's where it gets
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard so many crazy stories of like, I mean, I had a guest on. Oh God, he was back in like the day. They were in the like back when like they had like the, you know, like 60s, and he was talking about how even then, when being a black artist, it
Yeah,
is, just getting your worth was just pushing hard through that. I mean, I think it's still, I mean, I think it's doable to more doable today, but it's still a fight, and it's one of those things. Like, I think I love what you're doing is like you're taking full control of your sound, your artistry, which I think a lot of
Right.
people are very scared to do because it's that it's like Chance the Rapper did, and he did it,
Yeah.
and he's very popular.
Right.
So it can be done.
It can be. I mean, you got Chance the Rapper. There's a favorite artist of mine. His name is Yellow Wolf, and he's kind of
Yes.
like a country singer and a country rapper and a rapper, like. So I think a lot of people can be afraid because I think they try to put themselves in a box, or people try to put them in the box and say like, "Hey, you need to have one sound
Yeah.
so we know how to articulate who you are." When at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent, but if you're
Hmm.
able to master like multiple sounds and sound good on multiple sounds, I think you should do that because I feel
Yeah.
like it shows your diversity in music and taste, and people kind of they know what they're gonna like, maybe by the titles of your song,
Hmm.
they're gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be, I'm seeing Whiskey and a Pickleback, like this gotta be country, or I'm seeing, um, you know, Bugsy and Myers, and that might be a rap song, So there's
Yeah.
different, I think I like, and I've always catered more to people that are multidimensional with like genres, and just
Yeah.
have that taste, with a lot of different sounds. So,
I love that.
yep,
That's
yep,
that's
yep.
awesome. The never ending story part three
Yes,
um
ma'am.
feels like a chapter in a much bigger journey, right? How would you
Right.
describe the arc of the trilogy so far?
Like from number one to number three.
Yeah.
I would say so. This is all, and there's going to be a fourth one too. But
Ooh, okay.
yeah, there's going to be a fourth one too. But the from number one to three, I mean, it's really like it's um it's really based off of more of my life story, right? But it's
Okay.
like you're a part of the film industry, and like when they do biopics and
Yeah.
they say based on a true story, it's also dramatized, right? For entertainment
Hmm.
purposes. Like that's just how
Hmm.
it is. So this is like number one starts off like when my mom died, right? Like the day my mom
Mm,
died. And it talks about like in that it's trying to like in that first album, number one, I'm trying to articulate all these emotions I'm going through from that. And then also in the midst of like in a divorce, and then also in the midst of while I'm in this divorce, like falling in love with someone and then becoming heartbroken like through that journey as well. And so it's
yeah.
like learning, it's like trying to find myself and
Hmm.
my emotions through all this, like with death, And then it's like
Yeah.
almost like when you're going through like those rough traumatic times, like sometimes people can change, right? And
Yeah.
trauma can change people. So I talk about how trauma has changed me, and then that second one, it picks up from the first one where I tell them because my real name is Kalin. People call me K, but my artist name is Malik, right? Because Malik is my middle name. And
Okay.
so in number two, I talk about like how my identity is like, it's almost like I've filled this void from all the
Mm,
trials and tribulations, and I've now gone from this sensitive, peaceful kid to, to like now masking those emotions with Malik. And that's what I'm
mm,
thinking in number two is I'm this Malik guy, which I am
okay.
Malik. But I didn't know who Malik what Malik actually meant. And that's what happens and what people will figure out on the third album at the very end, like kind of who Malik really is.
Right.
And and it's not there isn't just a Kalen and a Malik, that they're all intertwined. It's on all like the same person.
Yeah.
But at the very end, I don't want to spoil it, but at the very end, it's like, you know, number three picks up at the end of number two. And at the very end of number three, it's kind of just like it's you kind of real like I kind of realize who I am, right? And
Yeah.
then it goes that has like this little transition into number four, which will come out probably next year.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
So
That's
I'm not trying to
exciting.
give away too many secrets, right? But it's like But yeah, they're all intertwined. And the third one's a little bit more of a fictional,
Okay.
more of not, it's like fictional, but it's more of a manifesto. It's more of a manifesting story because it takes
Nice.
place of me being this kind of this huge like rock pop star, Rolling Stone type of figure, and
Nice.
trying to navigate my way through the industry and what it brings, like, whether that's women or,
Yeah.
friends and money. And I'm just trying to navigate through that. And at the very end, I figure out kind of like, oh man, I'm still going through these old things from the album number one and two.
Isn't that interesting?
Right, right.
Like as
It
we
is.
evolve, sometimes our the things that we think we evolve past kind of sneaks its head up a little bit and you're like, oh. So I like that you said everything is intertwined, like you're all those people at the
Yeah,
same time.
at the same time. But yeah, you're just evolving, and you're just like,
Yeah.
because we all still have that inner child in us. But
Yeah,
sometimes I think
exactly.
that we kind of mask them, sometimes,
Mm.
as we grow, we're just like, it's almost like society is like, no, you got to be grown up. And sometimes you got that kid inside you that's like, damn, well, I still want to fucking freaking, like hang out and do my damn thing and
Yeah.
be able to talk about my, whatever I'm going through and have fun at the same time. So,
Exactly. Exactly. That's interesting. You said something about Rolling Stone. What does Rolling Stone, what does that metaphor mean to you personally in the chat in this chapter of your life?
Rolling Stone, I would say, it's kind of just like for me, I think a Rolling Stone is more of another word for it would be a pop star, or a
Yeah.
Rolling Stone to me would be, I think about like somebody that makes me think of a Rolling Stone is like, what's his name? They had a movie, it's called Dirt. Tommy, he was a drummer. I
Oh,
guess you could
okay.
say like Travis Barker. He's a Rolling
Okay.
Stone. I would say Yellow Wolf, he's a Rolling Stone. On the road, touring. Like
Okay.
nonstop Rolling Stone, in and out of interviews, in and out paparazzi,
Yeah.
getting caught on paparazzi, holding some girl's hand out of a restaurant, and you're all over the tabloids and the blogs, and that's a
Yeah.
Rolling Stone is just like a pop star to me, and someone that is, yeah, navigating their life in, a certain lifestyle
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
music.
That's awesome. Listen, I love your music. And when I listened to it, I was like, wow, yeah. I mean, I was thinking like, holy crap, you have so many different sounds. Like I was like, who am I? I listened to one different album and then I listened to another one, and I was like, it sound completely different. I was like, who is this
Yes,
guy?
yeah.
It was
I
amazing. I was like, whoa. I wasn't sure if it was you.
appreciate
I
that.
had to like look it up your name again. I was like, am I on the same page? He's like, I was like, yeah, okay. Whoa, that takes a lot of talent to kind of, it's, you ever see like like comedians who impersonate other comedians and they'll like,
Right.
and you're like, wait, where did they go? Like it's literally that. Like I didn't know if it was still you. And then but it was amazing your body of work because you put so much, you know, uh, um, perfection and hard work behind it, and it sound like I can hear it and I can feel it. Um, and I couldn't help but think your music and it's kind of like poetry. It's flowing through, you. Do
Wow,
you
thank you.
feel like do you feel a sense of responsibility or freedom to contributing to the legacy of your grandfather or your family?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the biggest reason why I do music. And I appreciate that too, by the way, because I feel like that's
Absolutely.
that's that for sure is, it's like storytelling. It's poetry in a way for
Yeah.
most of it, most of my music. Sometimes you got the mainstream stuff, but yeah, as far
Yeah.
as the legacy goes, I think that's the biggest thing. And Um, obviously, I want the as big of a career as I can with music, but I think like one of the biggest things for me, which I've always thought is cool, and ever since my grandpa passed and my mom died, I always remembered like, man, I wish I would have had a lot more of my mom's like
Mm.
videos or like a lot more of my mom's like voice notes, you know.
Mm.
And for me, you know, because I got kids too. I got four kids.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm like, um, you know, whenever it's time for me to go, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll be able to leave a legacy that I picked up from my grandpa and my mom, because my mom sang a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but for my kids, you know, and so when I pass, they like my kids will be able to remember, and for their whole life, you know, until the end, it's like they'll be able to hear their dad's voice on the records and be like, this is his story. That's fucking dope. My dad was cool as hell. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be able to have that cool legacy. So yeah, for me, it's really a legacy of carrying on from my grandpa and my family, but also leaving the legacy for my kids to have them here, like you know, whenever I pass, and you know, it's
I
like
love that.
they get to hear the audio recordings and be able to hear their dad's voice nonstop. You know?
I love it. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I mean, you have a lot of great music out there, so I'm sure they'll be like, "Wow, Dad was a cool
Yeah,
man." Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's like, the gifts that we're given, right? We're here to pass it on. That knowledge, not to sit on it, right? But just to
Exactly.
pass it on.
And that could be
Um,
through messages too, through the music, you know?
yeah,
Could be through messages through the
exactly.
music. But yeah.
Exactly. What advice would you give to that person out there, and young guy, young girl that wants to get into this wild industry of music?
Man, the advice to give would be um it's tough, you know? It is very tough. It is a dog eat dog world, but you just gotta be strong. Tough skin, thick skin.
Hmm.
You got like there's gonna be a lot of criticism. There's gonna be a lot of naysayers. There's gonna be a lot of people that are like, you're probably not gonna do it. It's very slim to none, but you have to have some type of delusion in any
Yeah,
dream that I think you do, you know? Like there's some type of delusion that you have to be as a creator. You have to
yeah,
have some screws loose in the sense of like you have to believe in yourself more than anyone in this entire planet, you know, and
yeah,
be able to like delusionally know you're gonna make it. And
yeah.
it's not necessarily delusion. It's just a manifesto at the end of the day. But it's
Hmm.
just like strong-willed and being able to really truly believe in yourself. And I think if people do that, you know, because a lot of people aren't cut out to be dreamers. And that's like the
Yeah,
truth of it all. And if you're a dreamer and you want to do it, it's like you have to be willing to go through and sacrifice a lot, you know, of your time with
hmm.
a lot of people. But at the end of the day, it's like, how bad do you want it? And if that's what you want, you know, that's what you're working for. So it's
I
really
love that.
just, yeah, just being delusional, you know, like Albert Einstein was crazy. But it's like, you know, you gotta be delusional sometimes to really become a genius or to become a perfectionist
Yeah.
or master at your craft, I guess is a better way of saying it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a lady on the show a while ago, and she was next door neighbors to Albert Einstein, and she had a really fun story about him and just
No
how
way, that's crazy.
normal he was. I was like, "Whoa, the Albert Einstein?" She's like, "Yeah," and he was just the coolest. He became friends. We had dinner, and I was like, "Wow,
Yeah,
what
that's crazy. She was
insane!"
next door neighbors with Albert Einstein.
Yeah, insane. The
Wow.
whole interview, it was like nuts. I was like blown away at just how, it's amazing. It's like, and how she just described him was just like a normal person. But to us, outside looking in, it's like, wow. Another thing, I think that's the thing about legacy, and when you get there, it's purely off of that. It's self-belief
It is. It's
beyond
just
measures.
self-belief for
That's it,
sure.
you know?
Yeah, it's
Like
definitely
it's you.
self-belief.
Yeah. You've always been this person. It's just that and consistency, I think if you
Yeah,
can just you keep pushing it out,
definitely
someone's gonna
consistency.
hear it.
100%. And it doesn't, and everyone's timeline's different, right? It's like some
Yeah,
people might blow up that next day. Some people might blow up 10 years from now. But it's just
yeah,
staying consistent and just driven, you know, and ambitious. And the funny thing that you say about Albert Einstein,
yeah.
it doesn't have to relate to him, but I think as far as legacy that you're talking about, which is funny, is my mom used to work for Ancestry.
Oh wow,
And so, you know, like she was like a manager, like a HR manager there.
nice.
And and one day I remember this is like right before she passed away. It's probably like three months before she passed away.
Hmm.
And she was like, I had did my DNA test, like my ancestry test, and she's like, it updates every year, right? And
Oh,
so
wow.
she's looking at this ancestry test, and she has like the because she's the manager, she has like a way to get into the archive stuff or whatever.
Nice.
And so she's like, damn, because my grandpa was a writer too, like he was a singer, but he wrote like he was an actual author, for
Oh,
books and
amazing.
stuff.
Amazing.
But so then me being a writer, I'm like, damn man, I must have got that from grandpa for sure, right? And she's like, yeah, for sure. But she's like, man, she's like scrolling through like all the ancestors, right? Like who are my ancestors? Where did I inherit some of these, maybe possible, skills from?
Yeah.
And so we're going down the lineage, and she's like, holy F-bomb, She's like, she's like, yo, your 14th great grandfather is William Shakespeare.
That's
And I was like,
nuts.
holy,
Gnarly, huh?
yeah. And I'm like, that's where a lot of poetry comes from, maybe, Mom. I
There
don't
you
know,
go.
maybe, maybe that's
There it
why
is.
I rap. But that
That
was
is
probably the
amazing.
craziest bombshell that I ever had in my life was like when my mom was like, holy cow, you're the 14th great grandson of William Shakespeare. I was like, no
Literally,
way.
I'd use that for every show. I'm like, yeah, I'm the 14th, like,
Yeah,
like
which doesn't mean like I'm like, damn, where's my inheritance checks or
yeah.
whatever? But,
That's awesome. Amazing. That
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. I mean, you come from a creative amazing lineage
yeah,
and you're doing that and you're walking in that power and that authority. And I think that's kudos to you. Kudos to you for taking that torch and continuing on the legacy.
yeah, I appreciate it. And I didn't know I was gonna do it though, Like if you'd asked me this, like as a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid, I've been like, yeah, no, I'm probably going to NBA. I had no idea. And then it just happened.
Absolutely. I think it'll happen either way. I think you're just destined for it, when it's in your bloodline. It's in
Yeah,
you could be in, NBA and then you could still have, done the other things as well.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was all meant to happen. The
Yeah.
visions are meant to happen.
Absolutely. Everything is meant to happen. Right. And we're here
Yeah.
now. This interview
Yeah,
was
here we
meant to
are.
happen. So
Exactly.
thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure talking to you too. I really appreciate you. And good luck on your endeavors as well.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
no problem.
And thank you all for listening. Oh, but before we go, where can people find you on social media to follow everything you got going on?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Irie Boy Malik, EIREBOYMALEK. And then on TikTok, it is going to be the Irie Boy. So THEEIRE. Or actually, it's just Irie Boy, EIREBOYYY. So three
Nice.
Y's. Irie Boy with three Y's.
Awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
ma'am.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure as
You
well
know,
with you.
absolutely. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Hey.